Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Rantoinette. We got a lot of interesting stories to get into today. Before I get started, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. Helps me out in the old algorithms. I mean, he did invent the internet after all, old Al Gore. Sorry, bad joke. Anyway, let's get started with the top story. The government shutdown. It is, we're like 4 days into it now, I think, or maybe it's 5 days. That's if by the time I release this, the Democrats haven't caved. What I have been talking about the last few days has been basically the messaging problem. Democrats have a messaging problem. At least the leadership has a messaging problem. Hakeem, Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer, they tend to go out there and they speak in vagaries. They use technical terminology. And of course, just looking at Chuck Schumer, he looks weak. He's constantly, I'm just trying to beg and plead for you, Mr. President. Please listen to me and understand where we're coming from. He's like, fuck you, Trump 2028. So the issue that I am having with the Democratic Party is the leadership. But there are plenty of Democrats out there who are very good at messaging. And I'd like to point out, we got old Bernie Sanders here, and he is on with Caitlin Collins, and he seems like he's got no fucks left to give, and I really appreciate that.
Came out from the Kaiser Family Foundation. This is what they said. 24 million Americans will see more than a doubling in their health care premiums. You know what that means? People in Vermont and around the country cannot afford health care right now.
So they just won't have health care.
They won't have health care. And on top of that, what the Republicans did in Trump's big, beautiful bill is to throw 15 million Americans off of the health insurance they have. Another study came out, University of Pennsylvania, Yale. You know what that is? They say that 50,000 Americans a year will die unnecessarily because they can't get to a doctor. So instead of improving a broken healthcare system, these guys are making it far, far worse. So I cannot sit back and allow a situation where tens of thousands of people in this country will actually die in order for Trump and the Republicans to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%. That is insane. It's unacceptable. We cannot allow that to happen.
Bernie would have won, man. I keep saying it over and over again. Bernie would have won. I know it's an unprovable fact, but God, can you imagine the place we'd been in if Bernie Sanders had won in 2016 and stayed in for 2 terms? Donald Trump would be a figment of our imagination, and our country would be in a lot better place. But we can all fantasize about a happier world, but unfortunately, in reality, we're in this really shit world. And the Republican Party, I wouldn't say they're bad at messaging. They just have bad messages. What they're saying is that the illegals, we're trying to give $1.5 trillion worth of Medicaid to illegals, which is just absolute horseshit. We all know it's horseshit, but everybody's on their talking points and everybody's pushing it. Not only is Donald Trump pushing it, but all of his minions are pushing it. He's using every media platform he can to push it. This is something that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are not very good at. Even when they're standing in front of all of the media's cameras, they still cannot do what Bernie Sanders just did there in a minute and a half. Now, I also wanted to point out, here's another one for you. This is Elizabeth Warren. And I don't know who this guy is, the reporter here, but he's got to be some kind of either, really sycophantic centrist or a Republican. But the questions that he asks her are just mind-boggling.
They will sit down now, and you have some Democrats, I'm thinking about Senator Masto of Nevada, saying that by withholding, by shutting down in this particular moment, you're giving more power to the Trump administration. You're not taking power away, you're giving it. Why do you disagree with her?
Before she gets into that, what he's saying is that the Republican Party is just, hey, why are you shutting the government down? We're willing to negotiate. Well, before the government shutdown, Democrats were trying to negotiate with him to extend the ACA so the prices won't go through the fucking roof, which they are planning to do. Average 50 to 75% increase in your monthly payment for the ACA. And of course, the 15 to 17 million people that are going to be kicked off of Medicaid. And the Republicans are saying, hey, why are you shutting the government down? We're here to negotiate. And the Democrats have been like, bitch, we've been trying to negotiate. Y'all just been ignoring us or just telling us to fuck off. And now all of a sudden you're like, hey, why aren't you negotiating? Suck a bag of dicks.
Look, let's understand that Donald Trump is going to do whatever he wants to do. And Russ Vought, the author of Project 2025, is in there trying to make as many painful cuts as he can. That could be stopped if the Republicans in the House and the Senate would just say no more of this.
I wanted to show you this too, since she brought it up. This is a tweet that Donald Trump put out a couple days ago. I have a meeting today with Russ Vought. He is Project 2025 fame. Remember back in 2024 when he was running for election, he kept saying, I don't know, Project 25, what is that? I have no idea, which obviously was bullshit. Donald Trump lies like he breathes, and we all knew he was lying. But of course, him saying that was enough for his base to go, oh, well, he really doesn't know. He has no idea what Project 2025 is. This is a Democratic fantasy. But meanwhile, now that he's become president in the last 9 months, he has almost completed like 70% of Project 2025. It's already done. But to go back to this, he is of Project 2025 fame. So Donald Trump is now basically just admitting, hey, I know I said I didn't know anything about Project 2025, but guess what? I was lying about it. To determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. Look, he cannot do this. Donald Trump is bluffing. He cannot cut government agencies. Only Congress is allowed to cut these agencies. So he doesn't have any power over that. But Donald Trump is now trolling the Democrats, which is the only thing he knows how to do. The art of the deal. You are a liar. You are a big, fat fucking liar. There is no art of the deal. It's art of the troll. That's all he knows how to do. And whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent, I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid, so maybe it's their way of wanting quietly and quickly to make America great again. President DJT, thank you for your attention in this matter. Anyway, so he has been trolling the absolute fuck out of the Democratic Party. And he has absolutely no intention of trying to do a negotiation. He has just been a no, just basically telling him to fuck off. And here's the thing. Donald Trump, all these cuts that he's talking about, he's making them anyway. So whether or not this deal is made or not, this is the only leverage that Democrats have. Anyway, I think that Elizabeth Warren touches on that as well.
Donald Trump has already illegally fired tens of thousands of federal employees, and now we have a president of the United States who's saying that what he wants to do is impose as much pain as possible on some of his fellow Americans just so that he can win a political battle. He's cutting infrastructure spending in places where it's already been approved because it's important to build those tunnels and build those bridges. But Donald Trump says he doesn't care. He just wants to impose pain on Americans because he thinks that Democrats actually care and that Democrats will be forced to back down. Look, Senator, we're fighting for people's health care. That's what this is all about.
That's how you message.
So, Senator, Republicans say what you're really fighting for is taxpayer dollars for, as they put it, illegal aliens. I know that's not strictly true, but there is a provision.
Excuse me. Not strictly true.
It's not true directly, but
out lie. It is a
it's not strictly true. Well, it's not true. It's a fucking lie. It's a fucking lie. People who are not citizens don't get Medicaid or Medicare. They don't get it. There's a handful of blue states that allow some immigrants that have some legal status to be able to sign up for the ACA. But as far as Medicaid and Medicare, President Bill Clinton took care of that back in the 90s, that you are not allowed to have any Social Security benefits, any Medicare, Medicaid benefits in his grand bargain with Newt Gingrich. And by the way, Ronald Reagan, Saint Ronald Reagan, godlike Ronald Reagan, the Republicans love Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan. Well, he also made it so if there is an emergency, like you were an undocumented immigrant, I hate saying the illegal immigrant. If you're an undocumented immigrant and you get in a car accident and you go to the hospital, they got to help you. They're not going to let you bleed out on the sidewalk. Of course, I think that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and Russ Vought would probably love to have ICE surrounding every hospital, checking people's paperwork before they go in there with blood gushing out of their chest. Hold on, do you have paperwork? Let me see that stuff. Oh, you don't? Okay, well, we're just taking you to detention, and you'll die on the way there.
Flat out lie.
The way that they frame it.
There is nothing in Medicare that permits one undocumented immigrant to get $1 of assistance.
Senator, if you let me finish the question.
Of course,
Senator,
I'm sorry.
Sorry, in the Democratic counteroffer, the proposal for funding, there is a restoration of Medicaid benefits for certain non-citizens that it had been taken away in the big, beautiful bill, as Republicans put it. Republicans don't think those people should be getting health care on the taxpayer dime. I'm not asking on the merits. Politically, putting that in there exposes you to this talking point, this lie, as you put it. Why put it in there? Why is it worth it?
No, what's happened is that what we're saying is that whenever hospitals give care, what is going to be the level of reimbursement? And the Republicans said
that's not reimbursement to the people, that's reimbursement to the hospital.
It's going to be a low level. The Democrats said we just want to go back to the level it was before because you're going to bankrupt hospitals. You're going to put rural hospitals out of business.
Which is already happening. A lot of rural hospitals that are anticipating the cuts that are coming after the election in 2026. They're already anticipating that, and some of these rural hospitals are closing, and a lot of those rural hospitals service red state America and red state rural communities with poor white people.
The Republicans and the Democrats plan, nothing changes the number of undocumented immigrants who still get care if they show up bleeding and unconscious at an emergency room. There is absolutely zero difference. The difference is whether or not hospitals, who under laws that date back to Ronald Reagan, may provide emergency care to anyone who's unconscious, will actually get reimbursed at a very low level that will put the hospital ultimately out of business potentially, or at a higher level. The Republicans, there is no change in the number of undocumented immigrants who get any help under what the Democrats want. Look,
ultimately, that's the whole point. There is no change. They want to go back to the way it was before the big bullshit ass bill that Donald Trump passed. They want to continue the way it is. They're not trying to add on extra shit. Now, also, another person who's really good at messaging is AOC. She's on here with Chris Hayes, and this is, at least with Chris Hayes, he's not going to ask her a dumbass question like, I mean, the Republicans say that you're doing $1.5 trillion for illegal immigrants. I mean, that's just what they say. At least with Chris Hayes, you're not going to get some dumbass shit like that. But this is a pretty good interview.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If there was bipartisan compromise, right? If everyone came together, the leaders of the parties, the president, and said, yes, these 5 things, we're going to make sure that these premium supports keep going. We're going to fund community health centers, whatever the sort of asks on appropriation around people's affordable health care. If those were met, Democrats would be a yes. Like, that is the box that this is happening in, as opposed to we can't fund a Department of Justice that prosecutes political enemies or whatever else might be out there.
Well, let me tell you, Chris, the mechanism by which that deal is locked is not just about agreeing in concept on tax credits. We need to do it with no tricks, no games, and no backdoors, which includes rescissions. And when we talk about rescissions, that is the mechanism that the federal government is using to gut and destroy rule of law across the board. So we are fighting to ensure that health.
When she says rescissions, she's talking about a line item veto or a pocket veto where Congress goes through the trouble of passing a budget. And then behind the scenes, Donald Trump goes, well, I'm not going to fund that and I'm not going to fund that. I'm scratching that up and I'm scratching that off. This is completely illegal. Separation of powers between the legislative branch and the executive branch. He has absolutely no right to do that. The only thing he has a right to do is either veto it or sign the damn thing. Congress does this. Donald Trump does not. But yet the Supreme Court is allowing Donald Trump to do a pocket veto of certain funding mechanisms completely against the Constitution, but the Supreme Court's letting him do it. So it begs the question, what is the point of this negotiation anyway? The point of the Democrats saying no to this continuing resolution to keep funding the budget, this is the only point of leverage. And of course, I wouldn't say all of America, but at least 60% of America agrees that this is all on the Republicans' back, is essentially because they have the presidency, they have the House, they have the Senate, they have the Supreme Court, they have all of the power. So they're also going to get all of the blame.
Care is protected for every American. But the way that we do that also means that the only way that you guarantee that is by forcing them to adhere to the rule of law, which means eliminating the rescission loopholes that they put in the CR earlier this year, which the Senate unfortunately had caved on then, and we're ensuring that doesn't happen now.
I don't know if that was a veiled shot at Chuck Schumer, but it really was a shot at Chuck Schumer because they had leverage back in March, and Chuck Schumer decided, well, we can't shut down the government because if we do, then Donald Trump is going to fire all these people. But it turns out that Donald Trump just went ahead and fired all those people anyway. He doesn't play by your rules, Chuck. So now we have a little bit more foresight. All we got to do is just look back and see what Donald Trump did in March. Chuck Schumer allowed the Senate to vote to do the continuing resolution because he thought that, well, Donald Trump won't be able to do all those firings. Well, he did it anyway. And then they passed a big, beautiful fucking bill and all of these cuts went into place. And now Democrats are scrambling. They're on the back foot and they're doing everything they can to maintain what little bit of health care we still got left.
Yeah, the quick 10-second version for people that haven't followed this is that, you need 60 votes to get the filibuster to appropriate funds for the government, but they can pass a rescission, which is to claw back some of the money already agreed to by 50 votes. So they have this kind of like cake and eat it too model where it's like, oh yeah, we'll come together, we'll pass a bipartisan appropriations bill, and then when we've done that, then we'll go and get rid of the stuff we don't like, which just seems like an insane way to negotiate.
It's no way to negotiate. And again, we don't even have to get into the technicalities of this. But what is important to understand is that the way that you honor an agreement and the way that we honor our fight for health care and to define and to also protect everyday Americans' ability to afford their health care, to cover their kids, to defend Medicaid. Those are the same mechanisms that we use to defend our rule of law, to defend the federal workers that we are trying to protect in this shutdown. Donald Trump is trying to play this bluffing game of, well, maybe what we're going to do is hold all the federal workforce hostage and fire everybody. Donald Trump has been firing everybody. We saw this with DOJ. We've seen this at the State Department. We've seen this at the Department of Justice. They are firing everybody. They are completely eliminating.
Let's not forget FEMA. He's like, oh, I wouldn't want something to happen to FEMA. It's like, dude, you've been talking about cutting FEMA or getting rid of FEMA for months now. Or how about NOAA, the Weather Service? You're cutting back on that. You're cutting back on OSHA, worker protections. All of these agencies, he's cutting anyway. He's fucking cutting them anyway. So the idea that the Democrats are victimizing all of America by shutting down the government, dude, you have been cutting at these agencies for the last 9 months. Don't piss down my leg and tell me it's fucking raining.
The federal workforce. And in order for us to stop this madness, we have to put a stop to it. And we have to stop enabling their abuse of power, including their use of rescissions. And when we're fighting on their health care, it forces them to act in ways in accordance with the law in other ways, too.
Let me ask you this. There are some people...
By the way, that is how you message. simple language that everybody can understand.
I've seen who have the following theory of why Senate Democrats have not cut a deal where they give 8 votes and move along. And that is that Chuck Schumer is worried about a primary challenge from you and is worried about the politics to his left flank. And so because of that worry about a primary challenge, he's going to shut down the government. Ergo, it is AOC's fault that the government's shutting down, or that you're somehow the kind of fulcrum of this. And I want to just...
Yeah, Donald Trump has been saying that this is the AOC shutdown and it's her fault. Ultimately, Donald Trump is using her as fodder for his base because they hate AOC, or they love to hate her, or, don't get me started on how Republican men feel about AOC, but he's using that as just another trigger word. It's like him saying communist or socialist, saying AOC, and that's enough to get the hackles up of his Republican base.
Ask you straight up, are you planning to primary challenge him? Do you think that's why he's doing this?
This is so not about me in this moment. This is about people being able to insure their children. And I will say, because I saw some senators speculating about this, and I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
So what she said there, come to my office and negotiate with me if you really think that I am the one that's running the lead on this, which she is not. It's Hakeem, Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer. But some erstwhile Fox News reporter decides that this is a great way to troll Nancy Pelosi by throwing that whole, is AOC running this thing? And watch how triggered she gets about this shit.
There was a thought from the Republicans that AOC is directing this, and she said that senators are welcome to go to her office directly. Is she?
Why are you saying such a ridiculous thing?
What's up with her hand? Has she got the Donald Trump thing going on there?
Why are you saying?
Yeah, no. Said go to her office directly. Do you think there's any?
She is not directing this. She's wonderful. She's a real team player and the rest of that. You started by saying Republicans saying that she's directing this. She is not. Hakeem Jeffries is. And this takes a lot of experience, a lot of unity from the caucus in terms of the point of view. And that's what this is. She's an articulate spokesperson.
Oh, articulate woman of color. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that. I thought that was pretty interesting. So here's something I wanted to show you guys. This was a cute little walk and talk that AOC did with Bernie. Yet again, talking about messaging, keeping it simple for the normie American who does not talk political wonkery. This is how it's done. This is how you chat up the folks. Watching Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, is older than Donald Trump, who is older than Joe Biden, still looking as Bernie Sanders as he can be, doing a 3-minute walk and talk. That's more than Donald Trump can do. Hell, they got to do AI videos to make him look normal. Anyway, take a look at this.
In Washington, D.C., and who did I bump into? One of my favorite members of the United States Congress, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And one of my favorite senators.
All right. Anyhow, as everybody knows, we are now in a government shutdown. Republicans are attacking Alexandria, attacking me. Why didn't you vote for this clean CR to keep the government open?
Well, there's nothing clean about it. This is one of the dirtiest tricks that is being pulled on the American people right now. Starting today, October 1st, and throughout the rest of the month, Americans across this country are going to start getting notifications that their insurance premiums are up to doubling. We're talking about
Say that again.
your insurance, your monthly insurance premiums are going to double for millions of people across the country.
At a time when we are already paying, by far, the highest prices in the world for healthcare at a time when people can't afford it right now. So what happens?
That means people getting bankrupt over chemotherapy, people going to the pharmacy and not being able to get their insulin. And frankly, it means a lot of Americans are going to be in danger. And Republicans want us to rubber stamp that. So what are we going to say to that, Bernie?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not only be in danger. Let's be clear. And I'm not, doesn't make me happy to have to say this, but there have been studies out there that when you combine doubling premiums for the ACA and then throwing 15 million people off of Medicaid and the ACA, the result is, according to studies at Yale and the University of Pennsylvania, 50,000 low-income, working-class Americans will die every single year. All right? If you don't have the money to go to a doctor and you're sick, you die. And that's what we're looking at. That's what this clean bill is about.
And so Republicans want us to rubber stamp that. And we're saying no. We need to stand up for the American people. We need to stand up for our healthcare system. And if they want our votes, they need to make sure that we're protecting every American and making sure that we can do what we can to continue to make healthcare accessible, affordable, as we work to make it a human right for all.
Right. So just back that up. Remember,
Back it up,
right
Bernie.
now, our healthcare system is broken. Right now, we're the only major country on earth not to guarantee healthcare to all people. And these guys want to make it even worse. We're not going to let that happen.
No, we're not.
Thank you.
Onward.
Oh, man, I love Bernie. I fucking love Bernie Sanders. I do. He would have been a great president. It's a shame that that did not happen. Now, as far as what's going on, the talking points on the right, the bullshit that's going on the right, we've got Donald Trump's elf on the shelf, closeted gay man, Mike Johnson. I knew it was one of them. He's on with Caitlin Collins, and she just easily checks his dumb ass.
So we passed the law. This president signed it into law. Democrats voted against it, of course. And it's been wildly successful.
What you did was narrow the eligibility for certain people to get access to the ACA subsidies. What they want to do is undo the changes that Republicans made in that. But basically, wouldn't that only affect people who do have legal status, people who are refugee seekers here in the United States, asylum seekers here?
Those are two totally different issues. Now, they've created this as a new argument that they have as to why they should not keep the government open, but they're arguing a December policy debate for a September funding issue. The subsidies that you're talking about don't expire until the end of December.
No. Those are the subsidies for just everyday Americans. That's one thing that obviously has been the main premise of their argument. But you're saying they want to give free health care to people who are in the United States illegally.
That is exactly what the effect will be.
But when I looked at it, there's a little nuance because they want to undo changes that y'all made, narrowing who is eligible to get that. Those are people who are refugee seekers, asylum seekers. They're not technically people who are here illegally, just cross the border.
That's just a handful of people. And he and Donald Trump and the rest of the Republican Party are saying it's $1.5 trillion for all the illegals. They wanted to go back to the way it was before the big, beautiful bill. And these handful of refugees is not $1.5 trillion. Get the fuck out of here. Get all the way the fuck out of here. And I also mentioned this to a friend of mine. When Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer walked into the Oval Office and they saw these Trump 2028 hats sitting on the desk so Donald Trump could get a little troll going, a little photo op going. If it had been me, I got way too much self-respect for that shit. I would have walked in the room, I would have looked at him and I said, Mr. President, respectfully, you are not serious about this. You are trying to fuck with us. You are trolling us. We're leaving. And just immediately walk out of there, go right to the goddamn podium and say, Donald Trump is trying to kill everybody in this country, trying to take away their health care, tariffs, and ICE Gestapo. It is absolute bullshit. It is pointless for us to be here. He does not care to negotiate. We're out of here. That 30-second clip would have been on every news program ad nauseum over and over and over again because it was a simple message and they showed passion and anger about it. As opposed to, well, the president and I, we had disagreements about certain things. God damn, man, you got to do better than that. I just showed you AOC, Bernie, and Elizabeth Warren just easily being a better messenger than you. But you see this. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Donald Trump with his damn 2028 hats on his desk, just doing a troll job because he does not care to negotiate. He doesn't give a shit about you. He doesn't give a shit about Chuck and Hakeem. He doesn't care about your grandma dying, waiting to get into a hospital. He doesn't care about your brother breaking his leg and not being able to have it fixed because he doesn't have health insurance. He does not give a shit. He is just here for the lols. He's here for the fucking memes. And Hakeem Jeffries, as opposed to out there messaging like Bernie, like AOC, he is so busy talking about his personal grievance about, oh, Donald Trump, he was racist against me. Honey, we are way past racism. They are a fascist party. Racism is the underlying factor. You going off on a personal grievance that he put a sombrero on your head and made you feel bad. Get the fuck over it. We've got 15 million people's health care in the balance, and you're pissed off about an AI troll job. You should have just gone out there and be like, oh yeah, I saw it. He's a racist asshole. Anyway, health care. Simple as that. But no, Hakeem has got to make a 3-day thing about it. Oh, it's just racism. And how dare he? And oh my God, I'm so offended. Get the fuck over it, man. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is a Republican woman, Anna Paulina Luna. She is a fucking lunatic. And she does this little thing here. Who wore it better? She puts the sombrero on and say, see, it's not racist. I'm wearing a sombrero. Look, JD Vance has got the mustache and the sombrero. It's not racism. Of course it's fucking racism. Don't be a fucking child. We know that it's racism. But now that Hakeem has been bitching about it for 2 or 3 days, now that's the talking point as opposed to the health care. It's the $1.5 trillion to migrants and illegals and transfer everyone. That becomes the talking point. Now that you made it about your personal grievance, you took the fucking bait again. Dude, this is not 2017. This is 2025. We are in a brand new era, full fascist. And you're still going on your personal grievance? Dude, get the fuck over it. I'll show you how serious the Trump administration is. This is literally on the White House website, and they're using this to spread their propaganda. They just put this video out. It is completely ridiculous. And the fact that they're using... Joe Biden never did this. Barack Obama never did this. George W. Bush never used a White House website like this. Take a look at this. This is just insanity.
Democrats, the party of open borders, transgender for everybody, lawlessness in our street.
Come on, man. The guy with the movie voice, transgender for everyone. This is the White House website. I'm sorry, I'll back it up again. But, you know, all the Donald Trump talking points, the open border is not fucking open. The border's never been open. It wasn't open under Joe Biden. Joe Biden deported more people in his term than Donald Trump did in his first term. Of course, Donald Trump is like, hold my beer, and he hires Stephen Miller to get the Gestapo together, and they're beating record after record these days. But to say that they had open borders, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris worked up a compromise deal with Republicans, leaning way too far to the right to give Republicans everything that they fucking wanted about the border. And he's like, look, can we just get some more judges? That's all the concession that the Democrats asked for, was more immigration judges. But we'll give you all of the border agents and all of the big pay, and we'll increase the budget of this and that and the other. And Joe Biden was actually spending our taxpayer dollars on completing the fucking wall that Donald Trump started. To show you how liberal and open border they are, they were literally funding the wall. Joe Biden. But yeah, open borders.
Democrats, The party of open borders, transgender for everybody, lawlessness in our streets are shutting down the government in an effort to appease the radical left. These Democrats are coordinating their strategy with outside leftist groups and are demanding.
That means we're going after the funding. So Act Blue, or, George Soros' son that funds certain DAs in certain blue cities. They're going after those people when they say stuff like that.
Nearly $1.5 trillion in spending for an agenda that includes healthcare for illegal aliens.
They would be undocumented migrants, and there's a quick fix for that. Give them documentation. Set them on the path so they can become American citizens. That's a quick fix for that. A fix for an undocumented immigrant is to help them get documentation. Nope, that right there is the great replacement theory. Tucker Carlson was talking about it all the time. They're trying to replace us with the Browns.
And much, much more. Democrats for years have railed against government shutdowns, claiming a shutdown would mean much chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. Democrats are...
We don't need to hear any more of this propaganda, but I just wanted to illustrate to you that this is the White House's government website, and they're using it to spread bullshit and propaganda to their base. You and I are not going to believe this bullshit, but his people do. It's disturbing. It's really crazy. I've got a phone number for you. It is Congress's phone number. If you are in a blue state and you have a representative that might be a little wishy-washy on holding the line about this government shutdown, let's just say Chuck Schumer, Kristen Gillibrand, that's here in my state. Both of those people need phone calls. Both of those people need reassurance from their base that they're doing the right thing and hold the line. Because both of those people buckled back in March with that first continuing resolution. So here's the phone number for you. I would suggest that you call up your senators, especially your senators, because Congress seems to have their ducks in a row when it comes to Democrats. But senators, they're a little wishy-washy. 202-224-3121. I'll repeat that. 202-224-3121. Call up, leave a message, be respectful, but tell them to hold the line because we need strength. We do not need wishy-washy. We do not need talking points. We do not need word salad. We need strong Democratic leadership that is to the point, speaking in plain language what this is all about. Republicans are going to say that it's trans people, trans for everyone, and they're going to say it's for illegal immigrants. You go out there and you tell the fucking truth. You got the truth on your side, do it. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.